isn't going to make you talk to the child that you're
No, it's not.
abusing. So are they getting into this at all? Is because to me, the Tea Party movement, for all they stand for, should be completely against this bill, that the government should not mandate how you communicate with your children, or frankly, what anybody does with their uterus. That seems like big government to me. The government won't fit in my uterus, so it should stay out. That should be the bumper sticker.
Yeah. Well, they're not involved, and I'm sure you understand why, because it's a social issue for them.
So then it's not about policy, and it's
For
not
them-
about
for them
ideology.
it is,
It's
yeah.
because the ideology isn't
Right.
adding up then. It's just one more thing to get those damn liberals. Yes, like I'm going to open a drive-through abortion clinic or something with Plan B lattes. I'm completely anti-abortion. I'm pro-education, absolutely 100%. And I'm also for the government staying out from between a woman and her doctor.
Absolutely.
You know, if men could get pregnant, can you imagine? A, they would beam your baby out. There would be no labor. They would. They'd just be like, whoop, be like Star Trek. Think about it. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Excellent. No on two.
No on two.
We'll be right back. All right. All right. All right. I mean, stop. Thanks so much. And welcome back to More Up North. I'm Shannyn Moore, and I have a great panel tonight. I just do. I have a great panel every night, but these are some of my favorites. And since this is airing on my birthday, I should have my favorites. Don't you think? Oh my God, you're my present. Early. Thank you. Harriet Drummond, who's also my assemblywoman, is here.
Hi, everybody.
Assemblywoman from West Anchorage.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And Vince Beltrami, who's the president of the Alaska afl-cio.
Hey, good to be back.
And Monique Karaganis, who's a doctor. And she's a doctor at Polar Pediatric. And I'm so glad you guys are all here. You've all been favorite guests of ours in the past, and we've gotten lots of emails about you. Really. And I wanted you to come in. There's been so many things happening so fast in the last couple of weeks. And I just kind of want to go through them. And you're three people that are experts in your own fields, but these issues, I think, are affecting all of us. And one of the things, just this week, the gag law was pulled. And this is a ballot proposition that's it's still gonna be on the ballot. And I know, Vince, this is part of your expertise, but I want to ask you about what all this means. My understanding is it's still on the ballot. And can you talk about it just a little bit, what it is?
Yeah, well, just to clarify what happened on Thursday, the Clean Team Alaska, the so-called Clean Team Alaska, which are the proponents of the Anti-Corruption Act, as they're calling it, we're calling it the gag law, suspended their campaign. And that doesn't do anything to take it off of the ballot. It'll be there. So we're not going to be slowing down in our effort to defeat that proposition. We believe it's poorly worded, overreaching. Just about everybody. Now we've got this huge, broad coalition of people on all sides of the political spectrum, Republicans, Democrats, everybody in between.
Socialists.
Socialists.
The Anchorage Assembly.
The Anchorage Assembly,
The
the
Anchorage
school
Assembly,
board,
the school board,
Chamber of Commerce, the Resource Development Council, most of the unions, the Alaska Municipal League.
Basically, everybody that's not a part of the Taliban wants this gone.
Yeah, they don't want it. It's bad policy. And you know, one of the main focuses in an initiative like this has been put around the rest of the country is to attack public employee unions. But in the ballot language, it's so broad and far-reaching that it impacts just about everybody, and we think it's a free speech issue. Just for instance, it has one of the issues in there is with sole source contracting. If you have a sole source contract, an example would be Providence Hospital. You know, they are specialists in certain areas where they get sole source contract. They also happen to have about 2,000 employees. Well, all of those employees, if they get a sole source contract, would be prohibited from donating to campaigns. It would be looked at, and not only those employees, but everyone remotely related to them.
Including cousins.
Yeah, cousins,
Grandmas.
Basically everybody that you can't marry.
Yeah, and a candidate
right?
Right.
Am I wrong? Everybody that you legally can't marry.
Unless you live in Tennessee.
Unless you live in a different kind of red state.
I love Tennessee, sorry.
Or Wasilla. Sorry, anybody from
But it would make not only those contributions, people that made those contributions could be criminally prosecuted, but so could the candidates that took the contribution, many of them not knowing. So it would be a nightmare
Right,
just
so
on that
you'd
one
say,
aspect
I'd
alone.
love to take your contribution, but I'm going to need to see your family tree.
Exactly.
And in some parts of the state, honestly, the family trees are a little bit pointed. I mean, everybody in town is related in some way. I mean, there are towns that can trace their heritage back 200 years here that they know of, and so it's like, it's insane to do that. And I think really in the attempts to lock out unions, because there is a sort of pathological hatred of unions among some people, they're willing to throw rural Alaska under the bus, teachers,
Small
towns,
business, nonprofits.
doctors. I mean,
all of
do you have any contracts? Does anyone at your business you have? Well, you
Sure,
take
we have
Denali Kid Care.
contracts, yeah, with the state as well as with insurance companies.
Forget it. You're out of the picture. You
Yeah.
can't
Well,
participate in
Can we see your
anything
family
political.
tree, ma'am?
And
Yeah.
one of the most egregious things was how they collected the signatures in the first place. They said this will stop. I mean, I talked to a signature gatherer at the airport, and they said, yeah, this will stop that VECO-style corruption that we experienced down in Juneau. It would do nothing to mitigate that. In fact, it would probably make the likelihood of that type of corruption increase, because there would only be a few people left really that would have influence or be able to donate and lobby, and some of them are the big corporations that don't necessarily have
So
state
you'd be
contracts.
out under this law?
Actually,
out?
I couldn't even travel to Juneau or to D.C. to try to influence our legislative contingent or anything like that.
To say that my district in West Anchorage really needs to have yada, 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 a fence built around Dan Sullivan's house. Just say.
Yeah.
You couldn't go lobby for that.
And we have a real important office in Washington, D.C., staffed by John Katz. It's the Office of the Governor that looks after state issues, at the federal level. It would essentially outlaw that office, and we wouldn't be able to push those issues. Arctic Power, another one who's always pushed, whether you agree with the opening of ANWR or not. You wouldn't be able to.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't be able to do that. It'd be done.
Nobody could send a lobbyist. Nobody in the state. You know how expensive it is to travel to Juneau?
Yes.
And how difficult it is to keep up with the issues as they move through the compressed 90-day schedule.
And do you know how expensive the cabs are from the airport to town? It's like $20.
Well, there's over 200 villages in Alaska. There's all kinds of organizations that those villages form coalitions on their issues.
Right.
They could not hire a lobbyist to go to Juneau.
To say we need a
They could
hydro
not use
project.
you can't use public money to hire a lobbyist. So I don't know where the money's supposed to come from or how your message is supposed to be transmitted to
On needs for
legislators.
ports and roads and whatever, bridges, anything they might need in rural Alaska, they wouldn't be able to get that message to legislators.
Well, Sean Parnell's just going to cut it anyway. Oh, well, maybe not all of it. All right, so the gag law, though still on the ballot, no longer has the clean team,
Yeah, advocating for it
which
presently.
is sort of like the Patriot Act.
Well, the other thing, I mean, the guy that's been behind pushing this, his name is Howie Rich. He's a multimillionaire, libertarian, anti-regulation, big real estate developer from New York. I think he's the one that's been the funder, and we're pushing for them to disclose who their contributors are. And they're talking about wanting clean, transparent, open government, but they won't tell us who's contributing, to their group. And everybody knows who's contributing to ours.
Yeah.
So I don't know if his inability or doesn't want to, continue to fund this is what's suspending their campaign.
Isn't it curious that they want to fight corruption, yet they don't want to say who's funding them?
Yeah, go figure.
That math isn't really that hard. All right, so that will still be on the ballot. It's going to say anti-corruption law.
It may. The group, Clean Team, they're suggesting that the reason they're suspending the campaign was because the wording got changed in the summary description, which was up to the Lieutenant Governor to do on the advice or with consultation of the Attorney General. They're trying to spin it that we have this broad influence with the Attorney General and the Lieutenant Governor.
The Attorney General that was a Bush appointee and just moved here?
And to claim that unions at least have any influence with that group is a stretch. So Anyway,
should say.
I think it was the presence of every chamber of commerce in the state, including the state chamber of commerce, on that list of organizations opposing this, as well as every other major anything.
Just about every rational person that understands what was included in the initiative is opposing it, and it will be as ballot measure number 1 on the primary ballot in August.
Yeah, and I've only heard like one person seriously back it in the media.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense at all, considering that the chambers of commerce are against it. And nationally, I mean, the National Chamber of Commerce, the president just came out and said that he thought that we all needed to chip in and help pay for the Gulf spill. So I don't know when the Chamber of Commerce nationally went to socialism, but this doesn't even make sense here. So it's not exactly a big liberal agenda that they're pushing through. So there we have it. On the ballot as well, and I'm really glad that you're here, Monique, because